GM, everybody. Welcome to the community call. It's been a while. However, today I'm excited to share some updates and insights of what we've been working on. We want to start with a little bit of a look back and reflection on what happened during the STIP period, right? So we had recently launched V3. We had less than 2 million TVL. During the STIP period, we peaked over 12 million, which was our 2023 high. We've come down significantly since. However, as many of you are aware, the outcome of STIP was not just to juice yields within the vault. It was to foster and integrate different partnerships to grow our off-vault ability to fill orders, right? And what does that mean? Investments into partners that are able to offer RFQ, investments into market making activity. And we've seen a lot of that start to come to fruition as, it took a long time. But as you can see here, as our TVL is decreasing, we actually have that foundational infrastructure with partners enabled now that our volume has started to increase, right? So I'm sure that you guys have all have seen the Premia platform since we revamped the order book, plugged in those partners. We're seeing a lot more increased activity in the short dated, so less than 3 DTE, especially the 0 DTE, especially when 0 DTE falls over with a Friday expiry. We're seeing a lot more volume. And that is because of mostly the RFQs on the short dated stuff. However, if you go to any of the monthly expiries, the Friday expiries, you'll see on those products that there's a depth of pricing, and that has been enabled because of what we were the investments that we made during the STIP period. Moving on, our 2024 product strategy. At the beginning of the year, we met as an entire group and we laid out what do we want to achieve this year? How can we really differentiate ourselves? Right? We kind of gave ourselves a mission statement. What do we want to do? We want to establish Premia as the best-in-class, fully on-chain digital asset exchange. How are we going to do it? Well, we know we need liquid and efficient markets. We know we need margin. How are we going to get users? We know we have to have the best-in-class user experience for all levels of users, from entry, amateur to pro tail, institution. We're going to have to tailor for it all. And how do we keep the retention of those users? Well, we need to continue investment in time and resources into those features that you guys love and enjoy. So we kind of laid it out here, right? We need scale and resiliency. I can happily say that for the most part of 2024, we haven't run into too many scale and resiliency problems. It's a good problem to have. However, as you know, that kind of bogged us down a little bit in 2023. We're able to work through those, and we also have more investment into solutions that are going to help in that as we continue to operate more, a larger order book, more real-time flows, more capacity from a hybrid on-chain, off-chain mechanism, enable additional partners to come in with RFQ. All right. Moving on to efficient markets. Like I said, we know we need margin. We know we need spreads. We're working on it. I can happily say that this week, actually, we're having an offsite where the research team is we're going to stick them in a room for 10 days, and they're not allowed to leave until they have a white paper on portfolio margin, which Premia will be the first fully on-chain risk engine and portfolio margin protocol. We know how we're going to get there. Now it's a matter of putting the math on paper and then writing it all out in a digestible format. I mean, you can debate digestible considering that our white papers, we have to put together the light papers. But nonetheless, a digestible format so that we can showcase it, get it economically audited, get the code delivered, and then get that done this year. We know that options right now is very nascent. It's very new. It's novel. How do we get new users? How can we abstract out the complexities especially with in terms of the lingo and jargon of what an option is and how it can benefit you as a trader, as a DeFi user. We started with the Academy program, going to continue to invest in that, but then also how can we showcase the advantages of using options in your day-to-day DeFi activity. And then in the optimize and partner aspect of things, right? We are one of the last DeFi options platforms around. We want to continue that, continue to work with different partners, make our products interoperable with other products, composable. There's some things that we want to do in the aggregation space. However, we still do this in a regulatory compliant manner, and that's always going to be something that's forefront for us. So, the 2024 H1 product roadmap. So this is the first half of the year. There's a few important things that I will discuss because there's a few projects coming out of stealth that I think will excite you guys. All right, so starting what we did in January and February, we created a Dune dashboard. It gives protocol metrics across the board. I think is very helpful. You can see volumes, you can see the TVL of different pools, what people are trading, what the dates that they're trading, right? We use this to kind of gauge where we should invest time and money because we've moved the organization to be more of a data-driven business management. In terms of the resiliency aspects and the scaling, obviously we've created alerting and like both, down alerting, but also in anticipation of something maybe starting to slow down in terms of latency so that we can get ahead of it before it becomes an actual issue. This investment has allowed us to, throughout 2024, keep on top of any issues, make sure that the site is 24 hours a day uptime. One thing that I think that it's difficult in the crypto sphere of having a product that needs to be live 24/7 because you can't take it. It's difficult to take it down for maintenance. You can't really take it down for maintenance. You have to make sure that all of your support and engineering teams are available 24/7. It's a challenging problem. We're happy to take it on, and I think that we've made leaps and bounds in terms of making sure that the site has a 24-hour uptime and it's always available for people to trade. We continue to invest in RFQ, our cloud infrastructure, which indexes the order book. As you know, the order book is on Nova as well. However, as a quality of life, ease of use improvement, we then index that and then bring that back to the users. And so how do we scale that? How do we create a better matching engine? How do we make sure that we always have best execution for people using our platform? Last month, we revamped that options chain to kind of showcase those scaling and resiliency improvements to users, as well as with the different partners that we have incentivized through the STIP program. You can now see we have a full book. We're quoting, a lot of less than 3 DTE expiries, as well as the weeklies and the monthlies. There's typically a full book. If you go 4 weeks out, 10 strike increments in either direction on all the majors, right? And we'll continue to invest in that. We have more partners coming online for some of the new assets that have more maturity. So you're starting to see more maturity in the Sol and the Matic. We continue to be, I think, the largest platform. I'm like 95% positive on this. The largest platform for Arbitrum options. We'll continue to invest in that. We actually are onboarding some more partners to extend that book as well. The API is continuing to get more robust. That investment into algorithmic trading infrastructure and ease of use of abstracting away some of the blockchain elements so that it's easier for us to move on market makers has been a worthwhile investment, as now you can bring your trading infrastructure, connect to our REST APIs, and have a full trading experience with our book. Now, in terms of what we've been working on this month, so we have a a large change to the V3. I think some of you had posted that it was V4. I see it more as a V3.1. We're calling it the decoupling change. Right? So if you ever hear the word decoupling, this is what we're referring to. Is we are actually removing the range orders because it actually is not a very capital efficient type of order. However, with this removal, we also are allowing for the removal of the pool deployment function, which means that the architecture becomes a lot less complex, both to maintain and then also use. And so we get a lot of scaling efficiencies by consolidating all of the pools into a singleton structure. So each pair will have a specific smart contract, which allows to write all of the expirations and strikes regarding that pair. There's an improved pricing model. We're revamping some of the fees. You might have seen the proposal that went up on the forum this week regarding those changes to the fees. The vault will still continue to be a core part of the infrastructure. However, we will be making the fees more competitive to centralized exchanges in terms of capping the amount of the fees, especially plays into like the zero DTE side of things, so that we can continue to remain competitive with centralized exchanges. Now, as a further investment to that bot and API infrastructure, we spent most of December and January building something that we're calling a zero liquidity surface. What does that mean? It means that our ability to spin up vaults or a pricing algorithm for lower liquidity or zero liquidity tokens is a lot easier. So right now we have specific requirements for us to allow for a pricing to happen, right? We have to have so much trading volume. We have to have so much liquidity. We have to obviously have oracles. And with this zero liquidity surface, it allows us to really scale that up for tokens that may not be as liquid or maybe more, they don't have that established track record in terms of trading activity over a period of time. Premia will be one of the first tokens that utilizes this, but we also have a few that are in the immediate pipeline. Again, continuing to invest in the bot infrastructure to utilize this iVault Oracle. We've also been talking with other partners in the space to provide multiple iVault services on chain so that this bot infrastructure that we're building and scaling has multiple different sources of truth. Right? You don't want to always depend on one source of truth. You may want to do a cross comparison versus another. I don't think that there's anything wrong with competition in the Oracle on-chain Oracle space for IV. I welcome it. I think it's important to have that fallback if you're going to be building out autonomous bots on chain. And so we continue to look forward towards that. And then now, outside of the bot side of things, we're looking at how can we grab users along the entire life cycle of expertise. So I think when it comes to the intermediate or pro tail user, we adequately tailor for them. We have our options classic view, which is more of a nuanced beginner way to interact with the platform. However, we think that we can do more in that space and bring in people that are using that at the traditional entry point for DeFi being swaps. So right now we're calling this Project Archetype. It is a full user experience for someone who's never utilized DeFi. There's no extensions. You sign in with OAuth. We have a pseudo hardware wallet that gets integrated with a passkey, so essentially your cell phone. And then we provide the best execution across all of the different swap providers, starting with Arbitrum. This is going to be our go live chain. So you can come to our platform. You've never used a DeFi extension. Which extension do I use? MetaMask, Rabby, Frame, Coinbase Wallet. We'll remove all of that complexity for you. Okay, I want to make a swap. Do I use Uniswap, SushiSwap, Camelot, Kyber Swap? We remove that complexity for you. you can get straight into just swapping any token that you want or buying your first Ethereum. There's fiat onboarding. And then there's an added benefit that plays into the core premium product, which is price protection. So let's say you want to swap USDC to ETH. However, you're scared that ETH might go down in the short term, 3 days, 7 days, 1 month. Well, we can structure that together with a put, and then you have downside protection on that price. So if the price is below whatever the strike is on expiration, you know that you're in the clear, right? The same goes for price protection on the upside. Let's say you've made some decent gains. You're willing to sell and swap today, but you don't want to have FOMO that if the price goes up in the next 2 weeks, a month, that you had lost out on that. So how can you capture some of that? You can pair that swap with a call option. So project archetype, knock on wood, end of April, they'll be ready for everyone to use. But it has smart accounts baked in. It has bundling. Now that we can, we plan on using paymasters that might not be available at launch, but because to take advantage of the lower price, the lower fee pricing due to Dencun, we think that we can now offer it with paymaster TBD on that though. And then to the larger projects that are helping us increase scale and increase capital efficiency. So we have an infrastructure play. We've outgrown Subgraph. So we've spent the last 3 or 4 months in-house building something. We're calling this Project Void Node. However, what it is, it's a mix between Shadow, which is an infrastructure play that is, I think, in beta, maybe alpha, and Subgraph. However, it's written in TypeScript and it has parallelization, right? So you get super fast sync times. One of the disadvantages of an order book, off-chain order book, is something called state management, right? We need to monitor to make sure that you always have enough tokens to fulfill an order, because we're not having you lock up your capital as TVL, right? So we allow it to stay in the wallet. If you're going to be pricing multiple different options, it's the most capital efficient. If you want to quote 10 different options with 1 ETH, you can once you get filled. Then the other 9 need to become invalid, right? So we need to do state management on all 10 of those orders to make sure, okay, if one gets filled, the other 9 become invalid, or if you change the approvals on that address, and so on and so forth, right? So we need to do real-time account monitoring, not something that we could easily do with the Subgraph. Like I said, we outgrew the Subgraph, but also as it pertains to real-time metrics, analytics on the platform. So we built a indexing solution that I think on our last run for the longest smart contract that we had, with like hundreds of thousands of transactions over the course of like 9 months, I think was less than 30 seconds to sync. And then every subsequential sync is much less time, sub 8 seconds, sub 4 seconds, depending on the length, because we store a lot of those blocks. But an also added benefit is the way we've built the handlers is you can actually bring in off-chain and on-chain data, right? So if you want to bring in a CoinGecko price and utilize that for different data that you want to provide to your users, it's a pretty robust piece of infrastructure. We're happy to announce that it should be done again end of April. If you want to be a beta tester, reach out to one of us. However, this all kind of plays into scaling up the order book, scaling up the RFQ system, and then rolling that into margin. So like I said, our portfolio margin, white paper, we should have a rough draft by end of month, TBD on when we're going to release that. But then we'll have a better roadmap per se for you guys to see when will isolated, when will spreads, when will portfolio, when will those kind of come into the pipeline for this year. Now, just a caveat, don't use any of this roadmap as investment advice or for investment purposes. This is kind of our tentative roadmap. This is what we're planning on. However, things are subject to change. All right, so some community and marketing updates. We just elected the second Parliament class that completed, I don't know, roughly 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to welcome all those new members. They will help to continue to drive the strategy, the vision, help us out in all different areas of Premia. They're your first line of defense. If you have any Premia questions, they're everywhere. You'll see them in the Discord with an owl logo next to their name. However, I'd like everyone to kind of welcome them into the community next time you see them, as they kind of have an elevated role as diplomats within the Premia ecosystem. So our newsletter, right, which started, 6 months ago, has grown to one of the largest in a full DeFi setting. It is definitely one of the largest. In the full crypto setting, it's not quite there. But at this point, we have over 4,000 active subscribers. That continues to grow. And our academy, which has been a driver to some of those newsletter subscribers, has over 30K organic users, different wallets that have completed a course in one way or another. That can range from completing an intro course or their Arbitrum Odyssey course to completing the full set of the master courses. And we're going to be continuing to invest in that, especially as we have Project Archetype. There's going to be a need for learning more about DeFi and more generally. And so we want to attract those users as well and get them to start using Archetype, so then we can continue to push order flow to the core Premia products. And so we have a lot of plans of how we want to kind of approach that over the next quarter. The partnership with Marty is still great and continuing to be a great success. As I say, Alpha is free on Mondays. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. So I think this is the last time I did a community call, or the group did a community call. We probably were 10,000 less Twitter followers. It's been a while since we had a community call, but we are over 36K now, 13.5 on Discord, 63 since our launch. I think it's actually, we've had a pretty good 2 weeks, but 63 million since the V3 launch. That continues to kind of accelerate, since I think we just had one of our biggest days ever at 3 million yesterday or the day before. And like I said, over 30,000 different wallets have completed at least one Academy course, some of them completing all of the Academy courses. So as spring approaches, we're going to continue to do spaces with partners, with other projects in the ecosystem. As you know, Premia has played a lot, has been more involved in, I would say, ecosystem governance on Arbitrum, as we've now kind of consolidated the entire foundation of our products into Arbitrum and Arbitrum Nova at this point. And so as we call Arbitrum home now, we have the most to gain and the most to lose, and so that's why you've seen this, outsized play, and we'll continue to have spaces and talks and partnerships with other ecosystem players, and also to provide updates on. We'll do this more regularly to provide updates on transparency, throughput of different initiatives that we discussed today. We will continue to invest in the newsletter. I love reading the newsletter. I especially love seeing everything that gets consolidated on a monthly basis, all the different community members, what they've been saying, all the different shit posting that happens in the space. I really do enjoy and then also on the alpha, what's happening in the markets, what's happening on a macro level, what's happening on a micro level. Always great insight to have. Docs. So this has been something that's been kind of hovering above us for a bit. So we have a fully revamped doc site. Post completion of decoupling, we're going live with that. Decoupling is slated for roughly end of month, beginning of April, tentatively right now. However, with the changes of that, thought it made sense to then do the migration of our documents into a fully fledged in-house built document site. It's super sexy. I love it. It's a lot more user friendly. It's the old Gitbook or Docusaurus type of docs kind of, hurts my eyes. So we fully revamped that. It's beautiful. Great shout out to Weka and the design team and everyone else that helped put that together. We'll be launching that soon. And then a lot of the gains that we got from learning and building Project Archetype, from a full account abstraction flow, bundling, making the flow of using options instead of having to approve and then sign and then swap if you don't have the collateral. We can bring in a lot of functionality. A lot of the functionality we had in V2 with multi-call, but then a lot of new bundling that we can do so that you can take multiple actions at once to just streamline the user experience of using our platform, right? So we learned a lot during their archetype build. We're continuing to learn a lot. The infrastructure has matured a lot. And so we'll be bringing that to Premia's site directly as well, with a lot of the account abstraction, the sub account format. We're using we're using Gnosis safes as our smart account. And so at any point in time, if you're ready to level up your DeFi journey and you want to move from a social wallet to, let's say, a hardware wallet, it's very easy to detach and reattach on a Gnosis multisig. With a signal signature, the Gnosis smart account, essentially, as you level up through your DeFi journey. That's it for today. Come join us in the Discord for a little AMA. I appreciate your guys' time. We'll talk shortly.